A seemingly uncommon but all too common story is the one in which someone, after having a loved one or close friend pass away, or they themselves have a health scare, they all of a sudden drastically change their behavior, almost as if they're an entirely new person. But it wasn't necessarily that the person themselves changed, but rather how they view life and, more importantly, their relationship with death. Because in both scenarios, they realize that there's this ticking clock that every one of us lives with. But in most cases, we choose not to think about. Every person is born with a death sentence. Each second that passes by is one you'll never get back. And that's what death and thinking about our relationship with it does for us. We're able to reframe how we view time, more importantly, how we spend it. And that's exactly why I want to talk about it with you, because it's a conversation that, I don't know about you, I personally didn't have enough growing up, and if I did, it was only in the context of something sad or less than positive, which is a shame, because that same sentiment carries over into adulthood and beyond, and we just, as a result, also neglect how we spend our time and how we spend our lives. We tend to live under this notion of breadth, or our time horizon. We think we have more time rather than less. And as a result, we dilute the value of the time we have in front of us. And when I was thinking about how I can try to best explain all this, death, time, meaning, this is pretty nerdy of me, but I came up with this formula that captures it pretty well. If we take our actual time and we set that over our perceived time, our time horizon, that indicates the level of meaning we live with. So just for illustrative purposes, round numbers, we'll set actual time as a 10. And when we operate under breadth, we tend to perceive time as also being a 10. And if we take 10 over 10, that gives us 1. And as a result, we pursue endeavors that match that level of meaning. Things that, again, we all know in the back of our minds don't really matter in the grand scheme of life, especially when we're on our deathbeds or have a health scare. Money, material items, conversations, people we won't remember, but we're okay with that. We're okay with pursuing these less meaningful endeavors when we're young, just to get it out of our system, right? Because we'll pursue the more meaningful endeavors in life when we have more money, when we have more time. Then we'll travel across the country, do that road trip. We'll pick up a new hobby or old one that we've put on the back burner for way too many years. We'll leave that unhealthy environment at work or in our personal life. And this is typically when death comes into the picture, blows everything up, and all of a sudden, that 10, the perceived time we thought we had, suddenly becomes a 2. And this is when people's behavior changes. the way they approach life changes. They start to operate not under breadth, but instead they shoot for depth. When you start to operate under this notion of depth instead of breadth, you start to act more thoughtfully, more intentionally, because your time and energy are so limited. So best be sure that they're going to the right places. And you start to realize that the endeavors you pursued in the past, the things you thought mattered or you valued, don't as much as they did before. And you strip these away to create room, make space for the more meaningful ones, the vulnerable, heartfelt conversations with friends or loved ones, or even strangers you come across. You take the time for yourself to pursue any sort of dreams or interests of yours. You experience life at a slower pace. You seek out and enjoy the little moments. You live a fuller life. You live more meaningfully. And that's the beautiful part about talking about death, is that it doesn't have to be this taboo subject we avoid at all costs, but instead a way for us to reframe our relationship with time and how we spend our lives. Before I go any further, if you've been operating more for breadth, that's totally okay. I've definitely been there. And at the end of the day, just remember, life is meant to be experienced from the ones to the tens. Because ultimately, those will give you a complete life experience. And even the less meaningful endeavors or whatever will just help you appreciate the ones that are more meaningful even more. And while I'm not telling you to quit your job, to reevaluate every one of your life decisions up until this point, though if you choose to, I'm all for it. Been there, done that. What I am encouraging you to do is to just take some time, think about your relationship with death, and more importantly, how you spend your time. Try to strive to find this balance between breadth and depth. Try to live with more meaning. Be a little bit kinder. Be more gracious and understanding towards yourself and others. Take the time to really think about what sort of life you want to live. Be more present in the littlest moments to the grandest ones. And to the best of your ability, take care of yourself in all areas of life so you do have more of a time horizon to keep doing the things that bring your life meaning. And this is pretty on brand of me to end like this, given I'm Chinese and off camera I've also been drinking tea. But I want to share this Confucius quote, which sums all of this up. We have two lives, and the second begins when we realize we have one.